Thank you, David. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and proud home of the Grey Cup. Tonight, the fourth and final regular season clash between the Alberta rivals. And what a night for football. Another great October evening and a 10-degree temperature at kickoff. Wind should not be a big factor. There's Richie Hall, whose team snapped a 3-game losing streak last week in Toronto. Won the first game against Calgary, but have dropped the last two. John Hufnagel's team playing its final regular season home game. Sounds strange, but potentially, Glenn.
Yeah.
Final home game of the year, potentially.
Well, two more games in the regular season on the road for Calgary. If they don't clinch a playoff spot, which they can clinch first place if they sweep all three. That's a big if. The West is quite a battle. This is quarter 4 of the Battle of Alberta in 2009.
The two meetings in Edmonton went right down to the dying seconds. Here on Labor Day, it was a convincing Calgary victory, and it's Demetrius Summers with the opening kickoff, bouncing off first contact, but Jason Nugent will pull him down after a short return. And Henry Burris, who rebounded last week, leads the Calgary offense onto the field.
10-6 against the Edmonton Eskimos. Joffrey Reynolds in conversations as an outstanding player candidate coming out of the West. There's the receiving corps. Jermaine Copeland plays big against the Edmonton Eskimos, their Alberta rivals, in the offensive line with Jesse Newman back at guard.
Start at the 29, and Burris falls as he delivers the football. It's a completion to Jermaine Copeland. And a 9-yard pickup, a little footing issue for Burris on that delivery.
Let's take a look at this Edmonton Eskimo defense. Gone through all kinds of changes. Justin Brown, a late addition to the defensive line. Eric Taylor is sick and out, was supposed to start. There's the linebacking corps. Maurice Lloyd said last week was his best game as an Eskimo. And a secondary with all kinds of changes. Randy Drew at halfback, Anthony Marlborough on the other side.
2nd and 1, Burris will push ahead behind center Rob Lazio. Fitting that Jermaine Copeland would have the first catch of the game. 22 catches now on the season against the Edmonton Eskimos.
Well, and 5 touchdowns versus the Edmonton Eskimos, and it creates a great matchup for this game. I mean, there are big play potential on offense for both of these teams. You know what Jermaine Copeland has done this year. Henry Burris, as you mentioned, Chris, snapped out of that slump he was in the 44-44 overtime tie with the Saskatchewan Roughriders last week.
Generated 10 plays in that game of 20 yards or more, putting 44 points on the board in the overtime game. Over the middle, and a catch is made, and a good one by Robbie Bryant in tight coverage as he was working against Jason Goss.
Henry Burris has said to me on more than one occasion over the last 3 weeks that he feels more and more comfortable every day out with Robbie Bryant, the new addition to the receiving corps after the trade with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He loves his breakaway speed. They haven't been able to take advantage of it yet, the Calgary Stampeders, because he hasn't had a catch over 20 yards yet, but just one, but Robbie Bryant is a guy that they want to go to more often.
Picks up 10, another first down, and now the pitch to Joffrey Reynolds, who had a big game last week as he crosses midfield. And Reynolds has 5. Joffrey Reynolds with 184 yards from scrimmage last week, and of course 3 touchdowns against the Rough Riders.
Well, and his long run of the year, 38 yards as well. 1,600 all-purpose, and I think just the way Joffrey Reynolds is playing, and when the Calgary Stampeders were off offensively in a bit of a slump, he wasn't. And that's why people are talking about him in that outstanding player conversation.
100-yard game against the Eskimos, a short shotgun snap, and an incompletion on 2nd and 5. Ball intended for Copeland. And Randy Drew draws the assignment. A couple of former Alouettes will be going head-to-head tonight, Copeland and Drew.
You can see both of them communicating after this one and talking there. Copeland tried to get a little push off. I think Copeland was laughing because Drew hung on. Did not get the penalty flag there, and he gets his hand to knock it down. And look at the Edmonton Eskimo secondary right now. This is the most experience they've had probably all season long.
For Burke Dales to kick, and Tristan Jackson has been a big story in this regular season series, averaging over 20 yards on punt returns against the Stamps. So they kick it away from him, and it'll be Byron Parker. And he's taken down at the 15. Parker gets 10 on the return, and it will be Eskimo football when we come back. Wendy's CFL on TSN. Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the Canadian Football League. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939. So Ricky Ray and the Edmonton Eskimos will start at their own 15, and offense still searching for an identity. And that pass dangerously in the flat, and Brandon Browner was lurking. Just missed a quick 6.
I believe the intended target there was Fred Stamps, and a guy that they want to get the ball to and has been hot of late. There's Brandon Browner sitting outside on the corner. Usually he's up in bump and run coverage, but this time he sort of baits this throw. He stays off it by about 12 yards. Ricky Ray thinks he has the underneath safe throw, and Brandon Browner jumps.
Eskimos with just 311 yards of offense last week. And the handoff, and look who springs loose, R.T. Whitlock. And he has been ripping off big gains in recent weeks.
Well, big game against Toronto, Chris. Certainly a game that broke the losing streak. 17 carries, 145 yards for R.T. Whitlock. An 8.5 yard rushing average. He gets a nice cutback there on Malik Jackson, the leading tackler for the Calgary Stampeders on defense. Good cut in the hole by R.T. Whitlock to get his team out of the hole. 35 yards 3 times in the last 4 weeks. He's had rushes of over 50 yards. And again, Whitlock has the ball close to midfield. So R.T. Whitlock now closing in on 1,000 yards. He got to 978 with that 35-yard run. So he is under 20 yards away now from his first 1,000-yard season. Well, and he's had success against Calgary, albeit it was back in game 1 between these two teams where Whitlock had over 100 yards. He had 11-yard average in that one as well. So he has had success against the Calgary defense, although that defense has changed quite a bit since then.
Expecting to see a lot of Calvin McCarty lines up in the backfield. He'll lead the blocking here on second down, and they run into Tay George, and George will stop Whitlock short of the first down.
It's all about gap cancellation for the Calgary Stampeders. When you want to stop the run, you have to take all those gaps on the offensive line and plug them up. This time Tate George did that. 13 tackles in his 5 games since his return. He hasn't really come with as much fanfare as Charleston Hughes has, but he has been consistent.
Marcus Howell drops back after taking that huge hit last week from Kuwana Jones. Prefontaine, the left footer. Howell from his 11. And he's up to the 15-yard line after a 41-yard kick from Prefontaine. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check. Shop online at sportcheck.ca. First down Calgary as they start their second possession of the game from their own 16-yard line. Joffrey Reynolds up to the 19. Reynolds has 3, the leading rusher in the CFL.
Well, and when you look at the rushing leaders and what a race it has become in 2009, and they're the top running backs in the Canadian Football League. 1,223 for Joffrey Reynolds. He has 7 games over 100 yards rushing, and he told me yesterday he's become a better blocker this year, which is hard to imagine because he's one of the best over the last few years at that.
2nd and 7, Eskimos blitz, ball downfield, and Robbie Bryant had it knocked out of his hand. Jason Goss looked like he was beaten on the play, but recovered nicely.
But this is what they've been trying to get for Robbie Bryant, is that deep route, because Henry Burris told me that Robbie Bryant is maybe the fastest receiver that he's worked with over the last few years here in Calgary. And that's saying something because he's had the likes of Kenyon Rambo, Jermaine Copeland, and Nick Lewis. But you can see Jason Goss catches up and gets that right arm in there at the right time.
Doing out for the Eskimos defense, Bryant and Jason Goss. Looks like that will be an interesting matchup tonight.
Let him go.
Big boot, Tristan Jackson back inside his 40, but it's a good return up to midfield. There is a penalty marker on the play. Justin Phillips with the tackle on Tristan Jackson. No score early in Calgary, where Jermaine Franklin is on the sidelines.
Thanks, Chris. Fred Stamps and Jermaine Copeland are neck and neck for the league lead in receiving. And Copeland says he's not surprised at all to see Stamps where he is. He knew he was a good young receiver and believes he will be for quite some time. But Copeland's been keeping his eye on Stamps simply because Stamps has what Copeland desperately wants this year, which is the lead in league receiving. Now Stamps has been keeping an eye on Copeland as well. Says he doesn't like when Copeland makes those crazy catches, especially when it's against Edmonton.
And he has done that on a number of occasions. There's a flanker screen to the returning Calvin McCarty back in the lineup for the Eskimos. That doesn't get far, but the Eskimos excited to get number 31 back in the lineup after missing 7 games with a hamstring problem.
Well, he provides the difference. Like he comes in and is a different style. He's a pounder. He's a guy who can wear down a defense. And then Archie Whitlock can make you miss in a hurry. So they complement each other well.
Just 2 for McCarty. The initial injury was a hamstring against Calgary back in August for Calvin McCarty, 2nd and 8. And it's a completion out at the 50-yard line, close to a first down. That's Jason Barnes, who gets a start tonight inside. And Kamal Peterson will move to an outside receiver position.
Kevin Strasser, the offensive coordinator, trying to mix things up and take a look at different sets. You know, they win a game and snap a 3-game losing streak against Toronto, which isn't going to catapult the Edmonton Eskimos up the power rankings necessarily, especially when offensively they threw for just 170 yards. So they still are a work in progress, although they like the talent, they like Jason Barnes, and they're going to see if Kamal Peterson can maybe do some damage out at wide receiver.
Measurement on the play, and they are less than a yard away from the first down.
But there's no question, Chris, the most important of the receiving core has been Fred Stamps. And boy, Fred Stamps and Jermaine Copeland is 2 guys who will be tracking in this game here tonight because of their success against each other. I mean, Copeland with 5 touchdowns in 3 games this year against the Edmonton Eskimos, including game winner. And Fred Stamps with a game winner in the first matchup between these 2 teams.
Those game winners come in the final minute. In fact, Copeland has 2 final minute touchdowns against Edmonton. 30 yard, Ricky Ray will get across the 50 and have the first down. Starting lineups are brought to you by Nissan, fan and proud sponsor of the CFL. And here is the starting lineup for the Eskimo offense.
Ricky Ray is 6-10 against the Calgary Stampeders in his career. We'll see Calvin McCarty in the backfield as well. There's Jason Barnes in a slot back. Kamal Peterson bumped out to the wide receiver position. Offensive line that's given up 27 sacks, which ranks 3rd in the CFL.
Eskimo offense had generated only 13 first downs last week in Toronto. 6 receivers out. And the ball for Stamps, he wasn't looking for it. So there was a little confusion on that play. Stamps was still running upfield as the ball fell incomplete.
Well, and you know you're going to get some man-to-man when you play this Calgary defense. Fred Stamps certainly understands that. But let's take a look at that defense. John Hufnagel said they've got to get pressure from just the front 4. They don't want to send too many blitzes here against Ricky Ray. There's Tim Johnson in the middle of the linebacking core. Malik Jackson leads the team in tackles, and Milton Collins and Wes Lysak will switch in and out at the safety spot.
Wayne Carpenter's in for Tim Johnson on 2nd and 10. And Ray guns over the middle, and he's got the completion this time to Fred Stamps. Another Eskimo first down to the Calgary 43.
Well, Ray is now locking in to Stamps as he comes and is gonna run that dig route again. And the dig route is when you go down about 12, 15 yards down the field and then just dig it across the middle and try and find the opening. And that was right in front of the safety, Wes Lysak, who had backed off to respect the speed of Fred Stamps.
16 for Stamps. They only had 3 pass plays over 10 yards last week. And here's Whitlock or McCarty, check that. Calvin McCarty, the ball carrier, down to the 36.
Well, Fred Stamps is trying to make his mark once again, and here are the 2 receivers we've got our eyes on for this game tonight. And here's how they've done against each other. 21 catches for Copeland, 13 for Stamps. Good numbers there for Jermaine Copeland. 5 touchdowns, and Stamps, boy, they have tremendous mutual respect. One a little more experience than the other.
7 for McCarty. It's 2nd and 3. And right back to Calvin McCarty, and a first down on the ground as he plows inside the 30.
Yeah, this is the difference maker that Calvin McCarty can be, and we saw his early success early in the year and how Edmonton was a better offense when he was part of it, simply because he gave you the different look. There's his numbers, and they're modest when you consider he's been out for quite a bit of the season, but he comes in one down, and then Whitlock on the next one. It's tough.
And in this case, they're both in as Bertrand's gone to the sidelines. They go 2 back. McCarty, a good receiver, and Whitlock's got it over the backfield. Down to the 20-yard line, close to another Edmonton first down.
Yeah, well, let's take a look, Chris, how you can use both backs in the backfield. Narkey Whitlock is one right there, and McCarty is over here. Now, McCarty's going to just run the screen like this, and then they got 2 out. So basically, they can use both backs as receivers. One comes across the formation, is a shovel pass option, and Narkey Whitlock, that little throw out into the flat. So that's a double threat for the Edmonton offense.
2nd and less than a yard. And again, Ray plunging ahead on short yardage.
You know, with the Calgary Stampeders, they talked yesterday about the importance of making a run and how they feel like they have an opportunity here to go ahead and take command of the season, but they're going to have to start playing better on the defensive side of the ball. Gave up 44 points last week. I know that game went to overtime. John Huffnagel told me yesterday they had times to win the game on defense and didn't. So Chris Jones is dealing with different personnel, but he has to get this defense going.
And in the last 2 games, they've surrendered 76 points and 965 yards. First down, Ray rolls. Lots of time. We'll just take off. Tim Johnson will push him out. He'll be marked out at the 12-yard line. Johnson sensed a chance to really lay a lick on the quarterback, but Ray was able to get out.
You know, sometimes your quarterback just isn't in a position physically to get the ball out. The receiver in this case was the primary target. Again, was Fred Stamps. Covered initially there, but watch how he works to get open. He looks around for that opening sliding, and he is open, but Ricky Ray was not in a position physically to be able to throw the ball when he opened up. He was for a second. Now he opens up. Now he's already made his decision, and he's gone.
So Ray runs for 7, 2nd and 3. 11th play of the drive. Fred Stamps has the catch, but won't have the first down. Dwight Anderson there, and Stamps bubbled back. Forward progress wouldn't have been enough either, and he lost yards trying to get to the first down.
You know, sometimes a receiver gets confident and they start to think that they can make that big play on every play. If Stamps, when he catches this ball right here, turns, he gets the first down. But what he does is bubble back, tries to make a bigger play out of it, and when he does, he loses first down territory. You can't fault the receiver for that. You know he wants to make the big play, but if he takes that, lowers his shoulder, he probably gets it.
You're right, where he actually caught the football, forward progress would have been enough. But instead, Prefontaine has to come on, an 18-yard boot. And the Edmonton Eskimos strike first at McMahon.
Dave Dickinson is the running back coach for the Calgary Stampeders, and I had a good conversation with Joffrey Reynolds yesterday in the walkthrough. Reynolds explaining to me that he feels like his pass protection and his blocking out of the backfield has improved tremendously this year. And I kind of was surprised by the comment in that Reynolds is one of the best in the league and has been for years. He said, Dave Dickinson, because of him being a former quarterback, boy, he is on you, knowing every single assignment.
Fontaine boots it downfield, and here's Summers. And Summers bounced off first contact and gets knocked out of bounds.
Chris, we have a couple of very good returners in this game. Demetrius Summers is one of them on the kickoff returns. He has the highest average in the league in that department. And then, of course, Tristan Jackson and with the Edmonton Eskimos on those punt returns can be so dangerous. So possibility where the teams could be a difference maker in this one tonight.
Summers 26.2 average, and he got some yards after the first contact. Mo Lloyd was jumping around in frustration after not being able to bring Summers down initially. Burris pumps and then dumps it off. And Joffrey Reynolds has the football up to the 45. It's a first down, and with that catch, he now has more yards from scrimmage this season than all of last year.
Yeah, and he really couldn't say enough about the influence of Dave Dickinson on plays like this, where he has to come out of the backfield right here. He has to check for blitzers, do the fake, no blitzers, and then just sit down in the open area. That takes tremendous amount of video study, lots of hours in the classroom, and lots of instruction from your coach. Dave Dickinson's been a big help.
30th catch, and now Summers in the backfield, and Summers tossed down at the 52-yard line as he spells Joffrey Reynolds and picks up 7 on his first carry of the night.
Interesting at this time of year how both these teams are really settling in to running the football, whether it be Joffrey Reynolds, Demetrius Summers on the other side, Archie Whitlock, and Calvin McCarty. They have been the story in the first quarter, and you know, these offensive coordinators, George Cortez understands, this time of year, you got to pound it.
2nd and 3. Pressure on. Burris downfield, and Robbie Bryant's got that. Great catch by Bryant. And he is becoming a bigger impact in this Calgary offense.
Well, Burris talked about that familiarity where he can now know when Robbie Bryant is going to make his break, can tell by his body language where to put the football to give him the best opportunity. Bryant does a nice job there of dragging that back leg and keeping that left foot in bounds as he goes down. What a shot, what a catch.
At 6 for 118 against the Alouettes. That was his breakout game with his new team. And now a first down at the Edmonton 35. 4-man rush and pressure, and Burris just throws it away, incomplete. Summers was in the area, and so it will not be grounding. Good pressure up the middle on the final play of the opening quarter. Eskimos with the lead. First quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons, always fresh, always.
Well, you get the feeling that these two teams are sort of rope-a-dope right now. They're kind of trying to feel each other out as this first quarter comes to an end, and you can see the rushing yards more for Edmonton than their passing yards. Some of the passing yards for Calgary, also those little swing passes to Joffrey Reynolds.
Had 88 points the last time we were here at McMahon, 3 in the first quarter, but it looks like both teams are having some success moving the football.
They are, but it looks like they want to do that ball control, win the time of possession. These are two very good quarterbacks, and Henry Burris told me yesterday that if you give the ball to Ricky Ray in too many opportunities, he will put up tons of points on the board. He feels like that's one of the most important competitions and stats to win, time of possession.
2nd and 10, and here come the Eskimos a little too aggressively, and Mo Lloyd crossed the line of scrimmage.
Maurice Lloyd said that game in Toronto, I watched that game as well, felt I agreed with him, is maybe
Offside.
his best.
Edmonton, number 47, 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
And the former middle linebacker
I say give him a helmet, and I don't think he'd have to give him anything else, just the helmet and nothing else, and put him out there.
Yeah, especially at McMahon.
Oh boy.
So it's 2nd and 5 now. And Burris over the middle. R.J. Franklin the catch. Brought down by Mark Rostelli. But the Stamps now have a drive being put together.
Edmonton Eskimos went with a little blitz there, some pressure, and R.J. Franklin recognized it quickly and went over the middle, right where Maurice Lloyd had left. Maurice Lloyd went on that offside when he was called there, really declared what he was going to do, and the Edmonton Eskimos did not change their defensive call. Maurice Lloyd went again, and Franklin saw it and went over the middle.
4th catch for Franklin since joining the Stampeders. It's a 9-yard gain and a first down. Burris, pressure again. Schultze talked about it before the game, and they get to the quarterback, and that's the former Calgary Stampeder, Justin Brown. Started the year, first 2 games with Calgary, was let go. He's in the lineup today because Eric Taylor came down sick yesterday, and so Brown gets the chance.
Well, he gets a chance, and he's taking full advantage of that opportunity with Eric Taylor getting the flu bug and was trying to convince the coaching staff that he could go, but Justin Brown gets up, and you're right. You get pressure with 4, you've got a chance defensively.
Loss of 8. Eric Taylor, by the way, he was trying to work the coaches. Oh, Jeff Pilon came out of his stance quickly, and that'll be a procedure call against Calgary. You can declare your roster up to an hour before the game, and about 90 minutes before the game, Eric Taylor had his equipment on, hoping to change the coach's mind.
Procedure. Calgary, numbers 64 and 65. 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
So both tackles move prematurely. Pilon and Archibald.
I would love to have tracked over time how many times an offensive lineman goes off sides after a sack.
Telling us they're going to make sure that doesn't happen the next time. Here comes pressure again.
Boy.
And Henry Burris is dropped back at the 45-yard line. Kai Ellis this time, and he has his 6th sack of the year and his 2nd against the Calgary Stampeders.
And he comes off the edge on Jeff Pilon, and it's one-on-one with Kai Ellis and Jeff Pilon to the left of your screen right here, and there's Pilon there. And this is just one-on-one, and watch how he drives for that upfield shoulder and then just pushes Pilon back and grabs him with his left hand. That's tremendous power from Kai Ellis, been really the most consistent D lineman for the Edmonton Eskimos all year long.
Loss of 9 that time. 3rd and 33, so Dales to punt. And the Eskimos hoping that does bounce into the end zone, and they will give up the single point. So the Stampeders have their first point of the game won. Burke Dales would probably like back. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Marquis Whitlock chipping away at 1,000-yard season. These teams establish the run.
15 yards away. Play action, and Ricky Ray drills it downfield and has Maurice Mann. First catch of the night for Mann, 70th of the season. He's in the top 10 in receiving.
Maurice Mann's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. Should get his 1,000 yards. And when I talk to the defensive backs, the corners in the league feel like he may be the best wide receiver. He and Kenyon Rambo, when he's healthy, in the CFL. But last game versus Calgary had just 1 catch.
Kevin Challenger now a wide out, along with Andrew Nowacki in a 6-receiver package. Ray has time and now is flushed. The long out, and it's another catch for Barnes, his 2nd of the game. And Barnes has a first down for Edmonton at the 47 of Calgary, a 14-yard pickup.
That's why the quarterbacks do so much film study, is because when they break out like this and things start to break down, Ricky Ray now has to hustle up into the pocket. He knows exactly where all his receivers should be by that time in the route progression, and he ends up going out there to Jason Barnes, knowing he's there without even going and looking at him over there.
1st and 10. And Kamau Peterson with the catch. And he is down at the 40-yard line. About 7 for Kamau Peterson.
You'd have to say, based on what Kamau Peterson did last year, he had 101 catches last year and 1,315 yards. You'd have to say this is an off year for Kamau Peterson. He has not had a 100-yard season. Having said that, well, you know he has the confidence to just break out at any time. The Edmonton Eskimos need him big time down the stretch here.
2nd and 3, double tight ends, and Archie Whitlock has the ball and crashes down close to the first down at the 37-yard line.
You know, Chris, it's been talked about a few times now, but when Archie Whitlock started the season in Montreal and had the problems that he had and dropped the ball, I mean, really, for a guy who's about to hit the 1,000-yard mark here tonight, he's really had a remarkable season, bouncing back from that first game, which was a disaster for him. And really, he was plan C for this Edmonton Eskimo team. Jesse Lumsden was the first option. Then they wanted to go to Calvin McCarty, who's been off and on. And Whitlock was plan C, and he's played well.
And I don't think either one of us thought we'd see him again after that disastrous day in Montreal. 1st and 10. Ricky Ray for Fred Stamps. And Stamps has another catch with Keon Raymond on his back. The Eskimos are moving the football here in the first half, and they're inside the Calgary 20-yard line.
I'm going to show you Ricky Ray's recognition on Tim Johnson right here. There's Tim Johnson, the linebacker, and I want to show you just the way he's going to drop into his drop. As he turns his shoulders and looks open, Ray can now go back into the hole just behind him, because Tim Johnson opens to the right, throw it behind his back shoulder, you got a chance.
Different offense than we saw last week in Toronto. Barnes in motion. Big to Whitlock, and Barnes the catch, brought down immediately by Keon Raymond. I think it's interesting that Jason Barnes in for his 2nd start, replacing Jamaica Rector, who had 48 catches on the year. So, you know, they've seen something in Barnes that they want to exploit.
Jamaica Rector was a little bit inconsistent, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's done, but you look at the last couple of games, just 3 catches in each of those for Rector. So, yeah, they want to take a look at Barnes. Hey, this is a what have you done for me lately business.
2nd and 7. 4 receivers wide side. They give it to Whitlock, not going anywhere. Malik Jackson waiting in the hole. In his 9th start at linebacker, and Malik Jackson now the leading tackler on the Calgary Stampeders.
What a play by Jackson as he just reads this nicely. You can see Whitlock is away from the formation, but it doesn't matter because the gap for Malik Jackson is that gap between the center and the guard. He not only fills it, but he destroys it.
So again, Prefontaine has to come on. Attempting a 25-yarder. And Prefontaine is good. 7 minutes into the 2nd quarter. Richie Hall's team up 6-1. 8 minutes left, first half here in Calgary. Let's check back in with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Some credit has to be given to your partner in crime, and Glenn Suter. He said the Edmonton Eskimos defense looks like it has a little bit of Richie Hall influence lately. So I went to the Eskimos head coach. I asked him, and Hall said, why, yes, I have been helping in the defensive game planning. Daly approached Hall after the Labor Day Classic. Hall says that says a lot about Jim Daly's character. And now, as you can see, they have 12 interceptions since then, and they've been working great as a tandem.
Good return for Demetrius Summers, and Noel Prefontaine has to make the stop. Jim Daly's team couldn't buy an interception for the first couple of months of the season.
Yeah, first 7 games they were searching for one, now have 14. They have 28 sacks, ranked 6th. You know, Richie Hall's style of defense is a patient style of defense. He wants his linebackers to be able to do both run, stop, and drop, but they're going to be the leaders. He's looking for Maurice Lloyd to do that, but he wants to get pressure with 4, involve the safety down low at times.
Joffrey Reynolds to work, up to the 39.
And what I mean by that is that the safety Scott Gordon in Richie Hall's defense, and Scott Gordon worked with Richie Hall in Saskatchewan, he likes to at times bring that safety down and put him down in the box and help with the run. Sometimes that safety and Scott Gordon can blitz. But Richie Hall, when you look at his history in Saskatchewan as a defensive coordinator, is a patient coordinator. He wants you to have to put together 10, 12, 15 plays.
2nd and 4, back to Reynolds. Mark Rostelli to toss him down. Looks like Reynolds is going to be about a yard short, depending on where they spot the football.
Then when you look at the other changes this defense have gone through, Chris, you look at that secondary when you take 4 starters and put them in. And the one thing that jumps out at you when you look at the right column and the left column is the left column is full of CFL experience. Anthony Malbrough has 8 years in the Canadian Football League. Randy Drew, his time in Montreal. Of course, we know Byron Parker with his time with the Toronto Argonauts. So he has brought in experienced players. Now they have to gel together. Now they have to come together and play together because, like the offensive line, the secondary have to play like they're attached to a chain, everyone moving together. It's the 2 positions in the field that are crucial that you're on the same page with the guy beside you. But there is CFL experience in that back end for Edmonton now.
Hard to believe that 4 of the 5 members of that secondary are playing their first game as Eskimos against Calgary this season. 3rd and inches for Henry Burris. And he'll plow for the first down behind Rob Lazio and Dimitri Tsumpas. And that big offensive line of the Stampeders.
Yeah, there is an element for Henry Burris of uncertainty. He knows Byron Parker, for instance, who's going to be playing out in the corner for the Edmonton Eskimos. He knows what he did in Toronto. He doesn't know necessarily how he's going to fit into the Edmonton defensive scheme. But you know one thing, Byron Parker gets his hands on the football. He's a threat to score with it.
1st and 10, a cutback from Reynolds, but not much there. Maurice Lloyd was lurking.
Of course, he had the interception against his former teammates last week against Toronto.
Well, that's your old area of expertise. We know about Byron Parker, as you mentioned. We know about Randy Drew and Anthony Malbrough, but how long does it take for good defensive backs to come together as one secondary?
It takes time, and the only advantage I would say with the Edmonton Eskimos is that those are experienced players, so it'll take less time than if you were putting 5 rookies back there.
4 for Reynolds, 2nd and 6. Burris across the middle, Robbie Bryant, and somehow he's still on his feet. Big play for Robbie Bryant, who looked like he was going to be taken down immediately by Kelly Malvo.
You know, Kelly Malvo is coming off an injury and is going to be worked into the defensive game plan for the Eskimos. And it looked like to me Robbie Bryant took advantage of that right there, because when Kelly Malvo tried to tackle, he completely lunged and left his feet. And Robbie Bryant just absorbed that first hit, bounced to the outside, picked up extra yards, but Kelly Malvo's coming off injury and looked like he didn't have that same drive. He's a good tackler.
As you watch that play develop, it looked like there might have been a train wreck, but
yeah,
instead Bryant just absorbed the hit, as you mentioned, and turns it into an 18-yard play. And Malvo doesn't make it to the sidelines. Shaken up.
You know, Kelly Malvo at his time in Winnipeg and here with Edmonton, one of the best open field tacklers in the Canadian Football League, but he sells out here. In other words, he leaves his feet there trying to just blow up Robbie Bryant. Does not wrap up his hands, and Bryant with great balance absorbs the hit and keeps going.
So Bryant with 3 catches in this first half extends his Calgary drive to the Eskimo 41-yard line. Anthony Malbrough back in that secondary as penalty markers fly, and Burris looks downfield for Copeland, and it's intercepted by Byron Parker, and now they're saying the play was dead.
Well, that was a delayed whistle to stop the play that far into the process. I saw the flags fly early on when it looked like it was either offside or procedure, and for the most part, the officials will allow a play to continue on because you're not sure which one was offside. I mean, if it's defense, you can still run the play, right? And you take a look at the flag after the fact, but they did blow it dead.
If it's offense, you can still get an interception.
That's right.
So hard to figure out. 3 different penalty flags on the field.
Procedure, Calgary, 64. 5-yard penalty remains first down.
It was just a matter of a couple of seconds there, but usually when there's procedure, if there's contact made with a defender, then they'll blow it dead immediately. But if there's procedure, they can continue the play.
So it's 1st and 15. And they throw the hitch to Bryant, another big game. And he's over one tackler down the sidelines and pushed out by Maurice Lloyd. Robbie Bryant's been the most dangerous step here. That's 40 yards. That's his biggest play of the year.
Well, he's putting on some kind of show tonight. It's funny when you get the idea from the quarterback, and Henry Burris, I mentioned, told me that he's feeling a lot more comfortable with Robbie Bryant, and boy, is it ever showing. Bryant, good moves in the open field, but he did have blocking at the point of attack.
Got a block from Rob Cote, and then hurdled Randy Drew. Out at the 6, 1st and goal. Fake to Joshua Reynolds, and Rob Cote walks in. Rob Cote with touchdowns in back-to-back games after going 38 games without one.
All set up by the play of Robbie Bryant as Cote will start here, come out of the backfield, and basically a tight end in motion. And guess who gets the best seat in the house to watch Rob Cote score his 2nd touchdown in the 2nd game? It's Nick Lewis, who's still looking for his first. Not that it matters to Nick Lewis as long as his team scores.
Now Cote instrumental on the Bryant play with a big block, and he finishes it off with 7-play, 77-yard touchdown march. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check. Shop online at sportcheck.ca. So under 4 minutes to go here in the first half. Rob Cote has his 2nd touchdown of the season. And the Stamps have the lead. And a return for Byron Parker up to the 35. Let's take another look at first how the touchdown was set up.
Yeah, you know, Rob Cote, good for him getting that touchdown, because on the play that sets up the touchdown, boy, he makes one of the key blocks on the outside on Jason Goss, because you need 2 on a hit screen. You need to block the corner. Rob Cote did that, but you also need to block the guy coming inside out, which is Scott Gordon. And guess who did that? It was Big Jet Pilon.
So now Edmonton starts at their 35. 5 receivers out. Whitlock stays in, but Ricky Ray is drilled by the middle linebacker, Tim Johnson. First sack for Johnson on the year, and he made it memorable.
Tim Johnson's coming up the middle, and Wes Lysak is coming from the safety position on the outside here. there's one guy that has to make a decision. Do I take the most dangerous or do I step outside? That's Archie Whitlock. Watch what he does now. He steps outside on the safety, leaving the open in the middle for Tim Johnson.
Ray rocked, loss of 8. They try the hitch to Maurice Mann. And Mann is surrounded and brought down by Malik Jackson. Just 5 yards. And Edmonton will kick when we come back. .238, and then we'll have Rona live at the half. These guys do a good job of breaking down the game, but for the second year in a row, not great motivation for Steve Olson.
Wow.
In the kicking department.
I put it right on the panel because they must have thrown him off or something. He had a big leg. Now, you got 30,000 though. That's pretty nice. We'll take that.
Wait here, Milt talk about Robbie Bryant's first half. Old teammate looks good tonight. Marcus Howell from the 20. Good return across the 35, and let's see if Henry Burris and this Calgary Stampeders offense can continue the momentum built on that last touchdown drive.
Good completion percentage for Henry Burris. Coming off that game where he kind of broke out of the slump at 280. It wasn't big night against Saskatchewan in the 44-44 tie, although they'll take it with what had happened previous to that in the 3 games previous to Saskatchewan.
You know, it's the first time in 6 games he was over 60% completion percentage. 68 against Saskatchewan. And back out to Bryant again. As they continue to work out there, this time against Byron Parker. 5 catches for Milt Steagle's old teammate, Robbie Bryant.
Now, one thing you don't have to do is motivate Henry Burris to play against the Edmonton Eskimos. And you look at the numbers in 3 games versus Edmonton, it's pretty darn good. 7 touchdown passes, well over 1,000 yards, and looks like he is really getting some chemistry built here with Robbie Bryant. You're right.
Bryant's over 100. Burris, 2 best games of the year against Edmonton, 479 and 393 passing. And there's Bryant again in front of Jason Goss and pushed out right at the midfield stripe.
One of the favorite plays for the Calgary Stampeders is this zone read play to Joffrey Reynolds. And there's Reynolds there. The idea is that Burris will take the ball, hold it in the stomach of Reynolds. Now he gets to make the decision right now. What do? Do I give it to him here, or do I take it and keep going out with it outside? This time he decides to pull it, and now he's looking for a receiver. He's got Nick Lewis coming across and Robbie Bryant on the sideline.
10 more for Bryant, another Calgary first down. And now dumped off to John Cornish.
They run the play better than most teams in the Canadian Football League, although all do. Let's show you what that looks like. Here's the junction point here where Henry Burris will put it in the stomach of Joffrey Reynolds. Now, if the defensive end in Kai Ellis goes wide, he gives him the ball up the middle. Same play, looks the same. If the defensive end in Kai Ellis comes down and crashes on Reynolds, then Henry Burris keeps it and goes outside with the option to either run the ball or throw the ball.
2nd and 7 for the Stampeders. 4-man rush. Burris has time and can't hook up with Jermaine Copeland. In tight coverage again with Randy Drew.
Yeah, you'd have to say in this matchup of the former teammates that Randy Drew's playing pretty well. I mean, you think about the fact that Copeland comes in over 1,000 yards, his 12 touchdowns, and Copeland right here, and look at Randy Drew up challenging. He's saying, look, I know this guy. I know his moves. If he's going to beat me, he's going to have to run by me. That's what they try to do. But Randy Drew is in perfect position and just doesn't get too caught up, so he grabs and draws the penalty flag. So far, Drew has won the matchup. There's lots of football to be played.
Tristan Jackson awaits. Gale sends it the other way. And is this going to bounce in? Just into the end zone. And a single point. That almost curled back to the pylon, and it would have been picture perfect. And you could see from Dale's reaction, he isn't really satisfied with the kick.
It is a lot harder than it looks, and I've been critical of punters at times, and I know fans sometimes wonder, why do they try and take off that big of a bite? Why not just try and get it out around the 10 and be safe? Because, when that single this early in the game doesn't really affect what you want as the field position. But having said that, it's tougher than you think, to put it perfect.
And he missed it by that much.
Yeah.
So the single point makes it a 3-point Calgary lead. Ray over the middle, and Canal Peterson unable to hang on. And suddenly the momentum clearly has gone to the backs of the home side.
Well, a couple of blitz packages by the Calgary Stampeder defense has really put the Edmonton Eskimos on their heels now. They look tentative on that play, and that time Chris Jones did not send pressure. He just dropped everybody out of there, and yet they still look tentative. So now maybe Edmonton's guessing a little offensively.
71 seconds remaining, first half. 2nd and 10. Off the edge, pressure. Peterson the catch. And brought down at the 42. He spun off Shannon James, but was taken down short of the first down. And the punt team has to come out.
Sorry, Chris, this time they sent pressure, and Chris Jones is going to send from the outside here. You don't see him on your screen right now, but he's going to come from the outside, and then you look at the pressure coming in the middle. They're all coming after Ricky Ray, so he wants to get rid of that ball. There's Shannon James off the edge. He doesn't really have much time. Now, he does go to the underneath guy, and Calgary makes a good tackle in the open field, and Kamal Peterson and Edmonton are going to have to kick it away.
Timeout on the field's been called, we presume by the Stamps, with a minute 2 to go, and they're getting ready to get the football back. And back-to-back 2-and-outs for the Eskimo offense.
We have one returner back, Marcus Howell, the rest up on the line of scrimmage.
Fontaine, line drive kick, Howell from his 19. Marcus Howell up to the 30, 53 seconds for Henry Burris and the Calgary offense to work with.
Nick Lewis was coming off one of his best games of the season against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and that overtime tie had over 100 yards and 8 catches there. His season numbers as he climbs closer to that 5th consecutive 1,000-yard season, but hasn't had a catch yet tonight.
Sitting on a couple of Calgary milestones, if you will. He's just short of Herm Harrison, the great former Stampeder receiver, in both catches and yards receiving. And with a decent night, we'll pass him in both. Burris looking downfield. Guess who? Drilled out of bounds, and they're ruling no incomplete, that he did not get a foot down. And looked like the catch was made out of bounds. And so, well, let's have another look. Was he pushed out? That foot definitely out.
Yeah, Robbie Bryant looked like he may have come down out of bounds anyway. What a first half for Robbie Bryant.
You know, that 40-yard catch is the first 40-yard plus play for the Calgary offense in 6 games. It set up the Cote touchdown. 2nd and 10, flag down. Burris under pressure. Bounced off the hit for Ty Ellis and extends the play. Downfield, another flag, and a catch is made by Jermaine Copeland. Well, let's find out.
Wow, well, lots to sort out on this play with 32 seconds left. You know, 3-man pressure, first of all, from the Edmonton Eskimos. And the first flag looked like it was in that holding area. The second flag way down the field in the defensive back pass interference illegal contact area.
Holding, Calgary number 64. Illegal contact on a receiver, Edmonton number 47. These penalties offset, remains 2nd down.
So Mo Lloyd, Jeff Pilon, the culprits, and a 46-yard completion from Burris to Copeland is wiped off the books.
We showed Jeff Pilon on that big block on the hit screen to Robbie Bryant, but other than that, he's had a bit of a rough first half, couple of procedure calls, and now the holding with just a 3-man rush from the Edmonton Eskimos on that last play.
Send 5 this time, and they get to Burris, who gets it away. Well, that's back-to-back weeks where we see Henry Burris in the grass, but still get a completion. Greg Peach thought he had him wrapped up.
You know, there's a lot of people over the last couple of weeks that have asked me about the in-the-grass rule and whether or not Henry Burris and quarterbacks like Burris, who if they get caught like this in the backfield, Peach looks like he has him, will the ref blow the whistle to call Burris down because he's in the grass? When that's not the case, they will allow the quarterback to fight through things like that, try and break free and throw the football. If the official, in his mind, the quarterback has surrendered, has quit on the play, then he can blow it dead. But they're going to let the quarterbacks try and fight out of that.
.25 seconds to go as Dales boots it downfield, and the Eskimos get decent field position. Oh, great downfield cover by Charleston Hughes, and we've said that for the last few weeks since he returned to the Stampeders.
Yeah, and you know, I love to see that because I can't emphasize enough how difficult it is for a guy to, like Charleston Hughes, at 244, to come down the field, full hustle down the field, make an open field tackle. That's a 35-yard run, great tackle, and now line up on defense about 10 seconds later.
16 seconds left for Ricky Ray, who needs about 30 yards to get into field goal range. Kelvin McCarty trying to get outside. He'll stop the clock at the 44.
And Charleston Hughes came off the edge there and put a little hit on Ricky Ray. I believe it was Hughes. That wasn't called by the official. They let that one go. But that is so difficult to cover those kicks, then play defense and watch him come around, and you be the judge. Is this a late hit by 39? Ball out, a little push. Budstein was right there and decided not to call it.
10 seconds left. The Eskimos need about 15 to give Prefontaine a chance. And Ray hit as he delivered, and that ball will fall incomplete. Closest man to it was Brandon Browner. And it will be third down.
Now Edmonton will likely just have to get into the locker room. Browner thought he could get a stat there at the end of the game, or at the end of the half.
Surprising that there have been a lack of those stats for Calgary. 4 interceptions in the last 9 games. And John Huffnagel says they need more in the takeaway department.
Well, they got off to such a great start. They had, in July and August, 8 interceptions. September, that total dropped to 3, and in October, just 1 by Brandon Browner versus Hamilton.
Eskimos stay on the field to kill the final 4 seconds. Ricky Ray is dropped back at the 37 with timeout in the opening half. And he didn't have to take one more hit because he took a few in that opening 30 minutes of football, the last from Charleston Hughes. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and proud home of the Grey Cup. The game to be played here at McMahon Stadium tonight at the half, 9-6 for the home team. Let's join Jermaine Franklin and Richie Hall.
Coach Hall, you did an excellent job running the ball in the first quarter, got a little bit away from it in the second. Will we see more of the offense running the ball in the second half?
We got to, but the key thing is we got to be able to capitalize and get majors when we get down at their own end. You know, offensively, I thought we came out really aggressive, physical in the first quarter, but we got to maintain that in the second half.
And your defense didn't allow a lot of points either. How are they keeping the Stampeders offense off balance?
I think they're doing a solid job. You know, on their touchdown drive, we gave up a missed tackle. So what we got to do is just be fundamentally sound, eliminate the big play, and keep playing tough. Keep playing tough. It's going to come down to the last 5 minutes of the game.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
And Richie Hall's new to the Battle of Alberta, but he knows that it usually does come down to the final few minutes.
The Edmonton Eskimos, in their 7 wins, 6 have been by 5 points or less, 4 by 3 points or less. They've been in some close games this year.
Richie Hall's team gets the ball and the wind in the third quarter. Not sure the wind's a huge factor tonight. Tristan Jackson on the return, and he's eased out by Dwayne Carpenter. Let's compare the quarterback numbers in the opening 30 minutes.
Well, Henry Burris, they had the edge in passing yardage. Both quarterbacks perfect as far as the mistakes go. No interceptions either way. Ricky Ray, I thought the offense for the Edmonton Eskimos had more success in that first quarter when they were involving the run game and getting Archie Whitlock up the field on first down.
58 yards rushing in the first quarter, -3 in the second. So back to the ground game, and Archie Whitlock, maybe 3.
Yeah, and you're not always going to get the big games. I mean, Archie Whitlock in the 3 games against Calgary has a nice average, right around 7 yards. You take a look at all 3 together, and he only has 3 there. So you go, well, 3 yards, not very good. Maybe we should throw the ball. But that's not necessarily the purpose of that run on first down. It has to influence the defense. They have to be aware of the running back all the time.
Mike Labinjo, the tackle on the Whitlock gain of 3, 2nd and 7. Ricky Ray, the look in for Peterson, and broken up and almost intercepted by Dwight Anderson. The corner has 3 on the year, and he had his eyes on number 4.
Well, Kamal Peterson is going to show you some route running here, and watch Dwight Anderson on the close. Now, the ball's in the air, and what I would say, if you were coaching some young receivers, what you say, what was the mistake made by Kamal Peterson on that play? He didn't come back to the football, and Dwight Anderson did. Almost had himself one.
Another 2 and out. That's 3 2 and outs in the last 4 series for Edmonton, and a line drive boot that skitters on the turf down to the 29 for Howell. And he's up to the 35-yard line. 48-yard kick. And how big's this game? Well, if Calgary wins, they regain first place in the West, pending another big game tomorrow at Mosaic between BC and Saskatchewan.
Yeah, just look at that. 17 points for both Calgary and Saskatchewan. That's why the Edmonton Eskimos right now really have to have sort of that feeling of desperation here. They're sort of on the outside looking in right now, but are still in the race.
And the Eskimos could win out, and with a little help, could still finish first. Ball swung out, and Nick Lewis has his first catch and a hurdle across midfield. So the streak continues for Nick Lewis. Game number 103.
Calgary Stampeders are really blocking this screen well. Nick Lewis is the inside receiver on the 4-receiver side. See how he hesitates? He's not up at the line of scrimmage because he's the guy catching the bubble screen. Brett Ralph, excellent block out on the corner for the Edmonton Eskimos. He sealed the deal out there. Nick Lewis picks up big yardage because of it.
21 yards, a first down, and now Burris back to the air, and that pass behind Bryant and falls incomplete. Byron Parker in coverage.
Let's go back and show you. This is a couple of times now the Calgary Stampeders have had success on hitch screens. And right out here on the outside, Brett Ralph has got to make that block. He doesn't make that block, the corner can come up and close. The play is over. We've seen that happen many, many times. So that's the key block right at the point of attack. Then he's got some help downfield from Robbie Bryant. The Calgary Stampeders blocking those plays up pretty well right now.
2nd and 10 from the Edmonton 54. 5 receivers out. Anybody open? Burris pumps and he'll take off. Trying to get to the edge, and does, and Henry Burris has a first down. He'll step out at the 42.
Henry Burris is on pace, Chris, this year to rush more times than he has in his entire career. And I truly believe that he is at his best when Burris is running and throwing on the run. Henry Burris does a great job here of losing some ground to buy himself some time to set up the opening. Now he's looking downfield. Everyone's still covered, so he takes off and runs for the first down.
Closing in on 500 yards rushing, 131 against Edmonton. And Reynolds, a crease off the right side. Down to the 25 before he's wrestled to the turn by Kelly Malvo. But that's 17 for Joffrey Reynolds.
Dimitri Sumpas and Jeff Pilon on the right side of that offensive line have got to make their blocks to make this happen. And Jeff Pilon had a bit of a tough first half, so you know he's going to be coming out and be fired up. He locks up Kai Ellis at that defensive end position to give Joffrey Reynolds a little bit of a crease. I look for a big half from Jeff Pilon, the veteran, because that first half was a struggle.
First down at the Eskimo 25. Burris rolls to his left and has another completion to Nick Lewis. Came up empty in the first half, but Lewis has his second catch of this drive and close to another first down. And Nick doing a little survey and
trying to get Randy Drew back over the signage.
It's like he's going to be just inches short of a first down. And now within one catch of tying Herm Harrison for number 6 on the all-time Stampeder receiving list. Burris plunging ahead. And a first down for the Stamps. Good-looking march.
This is the area in the field where defensively you want to send pressure. You don't want to give Henry Burris a chance to sit back there and choose which receiver he's going to go to, because guys like Jermaine Copeland, Nick Lewis, and Robbie Bryant, now they're going to try and open up. So Jim Daly has got to try and send some pressure, send that signal in, see if he can disrupt the rhythm of Henry Burris.
Back in the red zone where they're number 1 in the league, 65%. Scoring touchdowns when within the 25-yard line, and Joffrey Reynolds, touchdown. Open road ahead for Reynolds. 13-yard touchdown run.
And the key block at the point of attack is going to be Jeff Pilon, because Kai Ellis read it and wanted to go downhill here and fill the hole. But Pilon seals the deal right here. Jeff Pilon makes this block because watch 93. He knows where the ball's going. He just can't get there. Good block at the point of attack by Jeff Pilon.
Joffrey Reynolds has his 12th touchdown of the season. DeAngelis the point after. 7 plays, 75 yards, and a Stampeder touchdown.
Well-run zone read play here from Calgary. Kai Ellis is going to crash down here, and right here Maurice Lloyd is going to go to Henry Burris on the contain. Kai Ellis is supposed to eliminate the run here from Joffrey Reynolds. He's going to come down. Now, Pilon doesn't let that happen, but look at Maurice Lloyd come out, because if Burris keeps here, he's got to cut him off. Burris sees the hole, gives it to Reynolds. Touchdown, Calgary.
Tristan Jackson deferred to Byron Parker, and now Parker trying to get outside, and does. Big return for Parker across midfield. Looked like they debated of who was going to do it, but Tristan Jackson let Parker take the kickoff across midfield, 36 yards.
Well, let's go one more time back to that Joffrey Reynolds touchdown, because the play is run by Henry Burris. Look at Burris. He spies this hole here, Now he has the option to pull it and keep the ball outside. Maurice Lloyd's going to try and cut him off, and Drew here is in coverage, so he's out of there. Or TJ Hill, I should say. And then Joffrey Reynolds hits that hole. Perfect zone read play by Calgary.
Now the Eskimos have to kickstart their offense, down by 10. And that pass incomplete as he hung Matt Bertrand out to dry with a high pass.
Now, Chris, when you get that big play against you, you need some momentum changer. And this is what Byron Parker gives the Edmonton Eskimos. We have to see if they can capitalize on it, but this is a big return right after the Joffrey Reynolds touchdown. This is a desperate team, so they need to make it happen when they get that good field position.
36-yard return for Byron Parker. The Eskimos looking at 2nd and 10. At the Calgary 54. This offense moved in the first half or quarter, but hasn't been able to get anything going since, and it's another 2 and out. That's 4 in the last 5 possessions.
You can see Kevin Strasser is not happy with his offensive production right now, because they are not going to be able to take over or take advantage of this good field position by Byron Parker as Wes Lysak comes off the edge there and forces a quick throw from Ricky Ray.
Doesn't look like they're going downfield a whole lot.
They haven't really had time to do it. Some pressure packages from the Calgary defense put them on their heels.
And now a time count.
Time count violation. Edmonton, number 7. 5-yard penalty, remains 3rd down.
Richie Hall mentioned it in the interview at halftime about they're switching things up here. But in halftime, Richie Hall mentioned that his offense looked aggressive in the first quarter and then just didn't capitalize on opportunities.
Something odd for Calgary here. They sent 6 different players out after the penalty. Setting up a return, perhaps. One hopper to Howell. And up to the 23-yard line. A 48-yard boot by Noel Prefontaine. It's the Stamp by 10.
Every Friday night, we salute our Canadian Forces troops, and not all of the troops are deployed in Afghanistan. Some have other assignments. Meet Captain Eric Sear, Operations Officer, 438 Tactical Helicopter Squadron from St. Hubert, Quebec. He's conducting a reconnaissance mission here during exercise Spartan Rings right by Whistler, BC. And this was a 5-day exercise. It was aimed at securing the area for the 2010 Olympic Winter Games, and that picture was taken earlier today, so it's on the website right away. Our director, Paul Hemming, does a great job of finding these images and getting the information set up for us. And we always, of course, salute our Canadian forces wherever they are around the world and all of their assignments they have.
4-yard gain for Reynolds. Here comes the blitz. 2nd and 6 through the hands of Nick Lewis. The Edmonton Eskimos defense had to come up with a big series, and they have. A 2 and out for Henry Burris and his offense.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. They needed a big series. This is where Richie Hall was banking on some of those veterans to step up. This time TJ Hill closes in a hurry, but this is why he's made the changes on defense to try and get some CFL veterans for this type of opportunity. They've got to stop the bleeding, get a couple of stops, and give Ricky Ray some more opportunities.
Tristan Jackson awaits. Eskimos did not take advantage of the good Parker kick return. Let's see if Tristan Jackson can give them something. Good downfield cover. 8 yards on the return of a 42-yard Birkdale's punt. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and both teams with a pair of sacks on the night.
Charleston Hughes got one right before the end of the first half. That was his 7th in 6 games. Jim Davis had 3 against the Edmonton Eskimos in the Labor Day rematch. 0.
Archie Whitlock off the left side, and Whitlock still going. Great move by Archie Whitlock. And that, I think, is going to get him to 1,000 yards.
Should get him to 1,000 yards. The first Edmonton Eskimo running back to get 1,000 in a couple of years now. Archie Whitlock, who, as I mentioned off the top, was really the 3rd option for the Edmonton Eskimos on offense this year after Jesse Lumsden was injured so early, and then Calvin McCarty went down.
Last Eskimo to hit the 1,000-yard mark was Troy Davis in 2006. 23 for Whitlock and a first down. Ricky Ray as Barnes, who is hit hard by Milton Collins, the safety, at the 30-yard line.
But again, the importance of Whitlock in this offense, especially tonight, the way he started that first quarter.
A lot of personnel changes. Graham Bell checks in for Edmonton at fullback, and the run defense is in for the Eskimo, or for the Stampeders. Calvin McCarty off the right side, and there's T. George, but McCarty should be close to the first down.
Boy, and I really believe the Edmonton Eskimos can hang their hat on this type of playing right here on offense. Just, you know, bang Calvin McCarty into the line of scrimmage, and then run Archie Whitlock. And yes, in 2nd and long, you're going to have to put the ball in the air. That's the Canadian Football League, but especially on first down. I mean, Kevin Strasser had success in the first quarter. He told me in the 8 quarters over the last 2 games, he felt like the team has played pretty well offensively in 5 of them. He said that's not good enough, but it's getting closer.
And we saw that tonight, a decent offensive production in the first quarter, and then things went cold in the second, and maybe just starting to get traction here in the third.
And the traction, that they are gaining here is largely due to the running back.
Of course, what they have to do is get a first down. It's 3rd and inches. But if they can get, as they did in the first quarter, you get Whitlock success or McCarty success, and then you can go to Stamps. But Fred Stamps has been quiet since the first quarter.
Yeah, that's when play action kicks in, absolutely.
The 3rd and inches. And Ray ahead. Not much of a surge, but didn't need much.
Archie Whitlock is now the 6th running back in the Canadian Football League in 2009 to hit 1,000 yards. That's happened before, but there's never been 7. And we could get 8. All 8 starting running backs over 1,000.
Last time 6 was 2005. 1st and 10. Here come the Stamps. Pressure! Ray got it away, and it falls incomplete. Ricky Ray felt the heat. Jim Davis bearing down.
You were wondering when Jim Davis was going to sort of lock and load, because he had the great game in the Labor Day rematch where he got 3 sacks in 1 game. He was real quiet in that first half. But maybe he heard us mention him, and he said, you're right, I got to get going here. That time he was left unblocked.
He's taken some punishment tonight, hasn't he? 2nd and 10. More pressure. Ray stands in. Fred Stamps can't reach it. Stamps looked like he had a step on Keon Raymond.
Well, he had a bit of a step, but the ball would have had to be absolutely perfect. And with the way that Keon Raymond is playing, you know, you put the ball any closer to Stamps here, and you put Keon Raymond in play. So it was really the only option that Ricky Ray had. He had to put it out there and hope that Fred Stamps could come up with a miracle.
Prefontaine called upon for the third time tonight. This from 33 yards out to make it a one-score game. And Prefontaine has missed it to the right. Costly miss. And now it's a 9-point Calgary lead. Fifth miss in the last 12 attempts for Noel Prefontaine. And so the Eskimos settle for one. There's a helmet violation called on Keon Raymond long after the missed field goal.
Meaning he took his helmet off while he was on the field. Real good coverage on Fred Stamps on that attempt to the end zone by Ricky Ray. After the field goal was talking, took his helmet off to do it. One that John Hufnagel won't appreciate.
So they will start after the miss and the penalty at their own 25.
Heavy 6-2.
But it remains a two-score game after the miss. And another meeting of the officials.
And another, when you saw that shot of Richie Hall, another opportunity for his offense. A short field goal attempt, and worst case scenario for him, they even missed the field goal.
Pass out there to Nick Lewis. And Lewis up to the 30-yard line. Let's check back in with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. With just a few weeks left in the season, there's still a lot of what-ifs and complicated scenarios, especially in the West when it comes to making the playoffs. The Stamps even have a very, very slim chance of not making it. But Coach John Hufnagel simplified things for his team. He said, look, you can either win out and host the West Final, or you can lose and have to win in someone else's house to defend your title right back at home. The choice is theirs.
A lot of permutations. And on second down, it's Burris going forward for a first down.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting in that John Hufnagel actually went back to notes that he had made on how he addressed the team this time last year. And he felt it was a very similar scenario. The only difference, I would say, that this year, unlike last year, the Calgary Stampeders, as Jermaine mentioned, could finish out of the playoffs.
It is unlikely.
Unlikely, but possible for all four teams in the West Division.
And the Eskimos still not guaranteed a playoff spot either. First and 10, and there's Lewis again. Another catch and spins off what should have been a tackle. And he tells Scott Gordon, now you see me, now you don't.
Took a while to get Nick Lewis going here in the Calgary offense. I guess that's not really a surprise in that Nick Lewis was fighting the flu bug this week, did not really practice a bunch, but he's played well in this third quarter, and late in the first half had a couple of plays. So it's like he's fighting off that flu bug and starting to pick up his game.
Catch 440, which has just tied him with Herm Harrison on the all-time Stampeder catch list. And Joffrey Reynolds off the left side to the 53-yard line. And Reynolds has 4.
Chris, we talk about the zone read play, and we drew it up for you here tonight. Joffrey Reynolds, the key to that play, obviously, because you have to have a great running back to have that threat always for the quarterback. But the other key to the success of it for Calgary is the ability of Henry Burris to run, because you have to keep wide defensively to keep him in.
Second and 6. Burris dumps it off, and Joffrey Reynolds has the first down. He'll get pushed out by Mo Lloyd, but he'll be marked out at the Edmonton 49.
Henry Burris right now is using the cadence to his advantage. He's having he's getting into his call. He's getting into his down set hot. The receivers, look at him bark on the signals. He checks the defense, then the receivers come back and regroup, and then he calls. The reason he's doing that is to look and see what Edmonton is going to do defensively. They have to declare.
Big to Summers going deep for Ralph, but it's broken up. Good defensive play there by the corner, Jason Goss.
There's a couple of ways a quarterback can use cadence to his advantage. One is he can come up and go quick sound or first sound, and that's the first sound he makes. He walks up over the center, Rob Lazio, and Burrs would just, hey, and the way they go. And that can catch the defense off guard. They're not quite set. They're not quite ready. You can also stagger your cadence. Get up over the center, stagger the cadence, and maybe draw the defense offside. And Henry Burrs is taking it another step.
Now looking at 2nd and 10 here in the final minute of the third quarter. Eskimos bring pressure underneath Franklin, and he gets away initially and then runs into the posse. And it's just a 4-yard gain and a third down for Burris and the Stamps.
4-yard gain, and for R.J. Franklin, some ice bags after the game, because that's what you call a gang tackle.
So the drive stalls.
You have to admire Chris, the courage. And you know he's trying to get what he can, but the more you make moves in the open field, the more attention you draw.
John Hufnagel opting to send Burke Dales out instead of trying a 52-yarder into a slight breeze. They'll play field position here on what should be the final play of the third quarter, and not a great kick out at the 16-yard line, but maybe better than biting off too much. So we're through 45 minutes. Stamps with a 9-point advantage. Third quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Henry Burris told me yesterday that against Ricky Ray, you want to win the time of possession. Calgary Stampeders have the edge there. They have the edge on the scoreboard.
5 first downs in the opening quarter for the Eskimos, only 6 since. And again, this offense still seems to be looking for an identity.
It really is, because they at times look like they're starting to get some momentum. But like Richie Hall mentioned at halftime, 3 times now they've been inside the 35-yard line with a chance to really put some points on and grab some momentum. They've come away with 2 field goals and 1 missed field goal attempt. So Kevin Strasser's getting there, but this team's running out of time to get there too.
Should they lose tonight, they will not be able to finish higher than their Southern Alberta rivals this year, trailing by 3 at the moment, and that pass completed. Matthew Bertrand turns it upfield in a big way up to the 40-yard line. 24 for the fullback, Matt Bertrand.
Boy, every defensive back in a situation like this has to make a split-second decision. Bertrand is a tight end here to the right of your screen. He's got to come out of the backfield there, out of the tight end position, and watch Eubanks. John Eubanks came up there, made that split-second decision that he was going to try and jump this football, and then had the poor angle and came underneath it because of it.
That one looked like it was up for grabs, but it turns out to be a 23-yard gain. Whitlock over the 40, short yardage there. Shannon James in on the tackle.
Chris, you mentioned to me in a commercial, I think it's a good point to make, is that Ricky Ray has not been able to push the ball deep down the field. I like that R.Q. Whitlock is still involved in the offense, but he's Fred Stamps, Maurice Mann we haven't talked about in about 2 quarters since early in the first. And to get them involved and to try and go take some shots down the field and challenge these defenders, they may have to. It may become desperation time here in a hurry for Edmonton.
2nd and 7, Edmonton. And Ray underneath again, and that will be short. Barnes the catch at the 45, and he'll be 4 yards short of a first down.
Well, pressure coming from just the 4-man rush from the Calgary Stampeders, and it looks like Ricky Ray basically dumping it off quickly. He had on the backside of that play an open Maurice Mann, but because he rolled away with it from it, never saw him.
Fontaine to punt, and Al awaits. Ball falls short and then just bounces out of bounds around the 25-yard line. NFL Sunday Night Football continues this week on TSN as the Arizona Cardinals travel to the Big Apple to take on Peyton Manning and the Eli Manning and the Giants. Live coverage begins 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Last 2 NFC champions. I'm a little flustered because I'm out of the survivor pool.
Well, you
tell me how Oakland beats Philadelphia, please.
Well, a lot of people fell out of their pools when that happened.
And off the left side. Not much there this time for Joffrey Reynolds.
Here we go.
I asked Joffrey Reynolds about his arrival into Calgary and who influenced him as he was coming through college in his first couple of tryouts. He said it was actually when he was with the Rams. He said the guy he really wanted to model his game after was Marshall Faulk, who was with the Rams at the time. Just an all-around running back. Do it all.
2nd and long, 2nd and 8. Dumped off the crosser. And Nick Lewis, who was quiet in the first half, chewing up yards here in the second.
He's going to be over to the left of your screen, and we're going to run the crosser right across the middle. And Henry Burris sees pressure coming. He's got that right through his eyesight, his line of vision over the middle. He was just easy little drop pass over the top to Nick Lewis.
16 more for Lewis. Up at the 44. Burris is going to go back to the air, a pump, and looking deep downfield. Robbie Bryant's got it. What a play by Bryant over Byron Parker, and what a night for Robbie Bryant.
A little double move for Robbie Bryant on the outside as he wants to try and run. Going to show that out route, which he's shown many times to Byron Parker in this game. I think Parker at the end of the play wanted to look for the interception in the big play, and that maybe cost him this catch. But a good catch by Robbie Bryant down the rail. You see how Byron Parker looks at it. He's thinking interception and just loses his connection there with Robbie Bryant for a split second and catches that one over his right shoulder.
47 more. 2 40-yard plus plays in this game. None prior to tonight for Robbie Bryant. That ball up for grabs and falls incomplete as Kelly Malvo was closing quickly.
Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what Henry Burris is thinking. I'm wondering, though, and I'll pose it as a question. Does he want to get Nick Lewis a touchdown? Down in that red zone area, he locked into Nick Lewis right away, and that was a throw in traffic that just got his receiver banged up there.
I believe it was Ian Busby, one of the Calgary papers, suggesting that Lewis has more yards without a touchdown than any receiver in CFL history. Dumped off, Reynolds with blocking, down to the 1.
Straight out of the backfield, Joffrey Reynolds just going to find his way through the line of scrimmage and then come out the other side for the screen pass. He checks to make sure Maurice Lloyd is not blitzing. When he sees he's not, he just continues out to his right and then picks up that one. And guess who has to try and hustle over to tackle him, because Maurice Lloyd was supposed to be covering.
108 from scrimmage tonight. 1st and goal from the 1. Burris plunging. Touchdown. Or is it? No signal yet. Now there's a signal. Jermaine
Copeland signaled immediately.
8th touchdown of the year for Henry Burris.
And Robbie Bryant gets the assist on a second touchdown. He got the assist on the Rob Cote touchdown. He gets the assist on the big play, the Henry Burris touchdown. And you see his receiver, Jermaine Copeland, he had no doubts.
So another drive ends without Nick Lewis in the end zone, but Henry Burris gets there, and that potentially the dagger tonight. Still time, but Edmonton's offense has to get into high gear now. Extra points good. 23-7, Calgary leads. Wendy's CFL on TSN. Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the Canadian Football League. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona doing it right since 1939.
Can you tell? Or what? Because it would be like this over your head if I was trying to laser the coat.
Lewis reminding Henry Burris that when they're down in the score zone, he is available.
Yes, I still don't have one in case you haven't noticed.
I bet you there's nobody in Calgary that hasn't noticed.
You know, sometimes you just got to stretch the defense. You got to go down the field, and whether you make the play or not, just plant that seed. Robbie Bryant does make the play. That sets up the screen, gives that underneath stuff more room. Joffrey Reynolds gets it down to the doorstep, and then Hank drives it in.
Excellent analysis of what we've just seen from Calgary, but I can't help but think it's also a message that we have not seen from Edmonton.
Exactly.
They have not stretched the Calgary defense. Underneath, Maurice Mann has a first down across the 40.
And that would be, you know, one of the ways you could do that, Chris, is Maurice Mann. I know Fred Stamps is an option, and he's probably the first option, but if you're running those inside slot backs on deep posts or deep corners, sometimes you need more time to throw those. You get your guy, the wide receiver, put him into the short side of the field, Maurice Mann, send him deep. You don't need much time to throw the ball. Just throw it up there and let him see if he can come down with it.
8:08 to go, and down by 16. Has to be some urgency. Wham! Drops it. We got a late flag in the backfield. Let's see what Bud Steen's got.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Calgary, number 91, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
St. George gives the Eskimos a first down and 15 yards of real estate to midfield.
Notice if it was a late hit on Ricky Ray. Looked like he hit one of the offensive linemen for the Edmonton Eskimos real late.
So George makes a trip to the sidelines. And then Kashama comes in at defensive end. Ray over the middle. Catch is made and the ball popped loose and into the hands of Dwayne Carpenter. Maurice Mann fumbles, and now the lateral to extend the play, and Shannon James ends up with the football.
Well, I have a feeling John Hufnagel is going to talk to Dwayne Carpenter and say, hey, good play, way to be around the football, way to get that fumble recovery. Once you have it, though, let's not be too loosey-goosey with it out there in the open field. Here comes a fumble. First of all, was it out? I think it was.
Looks like Charleston Hughes created the fumble.
Ball's loose there, no knee down, so that is a fumble. And then it's Carpenter who scoops it up and then tries to pitch to Shannon James. It works, but you got to be careful with those. You don't give it right back to the opposition.
So the first turnover of the night puts the ball back in the hands of the Calgary offense at their own 52. Reynolds with a cutback. And across midfield. Mark Rastelli and Greg Peach on the tackle.
Mentioned the Edmonton Eskimos had to really have the sense of urgency. Calgary could have lost this football game and still been in the fight for home field. Maybe not first place, depending on how things turned out, but certainly home field. Edmonton is in a very different situation. They lose this game. Now they're even looking at the crossover possibility, and that may disappear depending on what Winnipeg does. I mean, it becomes a little more desperate for them.
7 wins. The Bombers can get to 7 tomorrow. Got a tough task, but there's a ball in the flat. Caught. Robbie Bryant again. What a night for Robbie Bryant, and he's down inside the 10-yard line. 45, that's his third 40-plus play of the night. He's over 200 yards, 210 to be exact.
You know, Chris, it was a great run by Robbie Bryant, but I just want to emphasize that look where Henry Burris is standing. He's 2 yards inside the left hash mark, and he throws that dart to the sideline. And, you know, there are not many quarterbacks in the game that can make that throw.
83's been big tonight. Is this where 82 comes into play? Looking into the end zone. Copeland can't catch it, but there is a penalty on the play. Pass interference against Kelly Malvo.
We had a good conversation with Jermaine Copeland yesterday about his games against Edmonton. He said it's a battle of Alberta. I don't have to get fired up for that. That's automatic.
Illegal contact on a receiver. Edmonton number 27. Half the distance to the goal, and it's first down.
Take a look at that's Copeland there, and you can see the Kelly Malvo right up, bump and run, grab the shoulder pad, grab the jersey a little bit, and a little more contact there. Copeland almost comes up with it anyway.
Would have been his 6th touchdown catch against Edmonton this year. So it's first and goal now from the 4. Reynolds will stunner step and into the end zone. Second of the night, 5th in 2 games for Joffrey Reynolds. 13 on the year.
Well, a lot still needs to be sorted out, but maybe, just maybe, this isn't the last home game.
Sure doesn't look like it.
The Calgary Stampeders, as they now open this one up. Good hard run. No zone read, no read about that play. Just hand it off to 21 and let him do the rest.
Touchdown off the turnover on the Maurice Mann fumble. Reynolds hits pay dirt again.
And Robbie Bryant sets up a third one.
He's been the playmaker tonight, and it's all Calgary second half. Tonight's game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Well, Robbie Bryant has been the great assist man. He's set up 3 touchdowns for the Calgary Stampeders with his 210 yards and his big plays. Whitlock got over 1,000, but he'd tell you he'd rather see the offense put some more points on the board than get that personal milestone in Calgary in the second half.
Second best receiving game of the year right now behind the 213 of Darius Bowman. But Robbie Bryant might have some time left.
Joffrey Reynolds finishes it off, but you're right, Chris. My buddy Pierre McGuire would say he's having a monster game. This is a monster game for Robbie.
Yeah, but is it a gladiator type game? Well, we'll have to wait the 5 minutes. Because I know it's not always the stats guys.
It's not always the stats guys, and Joffrey's put together a good game. And some of the big boys up front for Calgary have played well also. So there's a few in the running still.
Ricky Ray, crosser to Stamps, trying to turn it up, and he gets drilled, and that will draw a flag at the 38-yard line. Might get an argument at the Stamps bench, but it will be 15 tacked on.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Calgary, number 29, it's 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Eubanks draws the flag.
That is close.
Budstein draws some harsh criticism at the bench. Let's take a look.
I think the officials just saying, you know, that he's inbounds and the hit was coming, and Eubanks could not pull up on that at that point. A close call, but I think what they're saying here is that Fred Stamps had basically surrendered there. He was on his way out of bounds.
Ray hit as he threw the football, and that one nearly picked up by Tim Johnson, but Ricky Ray has really had to face the heat from the front four of Calgary all night long.
And Tim Johnson shows you that, you know, Tim Johnson was brought in because he's a run stopper. Because the Calgary Stampeders were having problems stopping the run before he arrived on the scene. There's the pressure, and Johnson hasn't done many ball drills.
Tay George with the hit on Ricky Ray. 2nd and 10. Ray downfield, Stamps a neat grab inside the 40. And that's his 5th catch of the night.
Fred Stamps is fired up, and I think he was looking to the bench saying, why haven't we been doing this all game long? I mean, send me down here, I'll make a play for you. That's exactly what he does here. He's coming around. This one's good because he has to stab the ball in a real narrow window.
5 for 66 on the night for the leading receiver in the league. And Ray over the middle again. Kamau Peterson brought down by Malik Jackson. Close to another Edmonton first down with the clock running and approaching the 3-minute warning.
We're waiting on a whistle.
Calgary's won 3 of the 4 last 4 meetings against Edmonton, 8 of 11, and in charge tonight. 2nd and short, safety blitz. Maurice Mann, the catch, no, incomplete. And it will be 3rd and short when we come back. The 3-minute warning here at McMahon. Time for the TSN turning point.
We got to the 4th quarter. It was 16-7 Calgary. Still real close ball game. And Henry Burris goes down the sideline to Robbie Bryant on the double move. Makes a big catch in coverage with Byron Parker all over him.
TSN Turning Point brought to you by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL.
That set up one of 3 touchdowns for the Calgary Stampeders. Robbie Bryant, the setup man tonight.
3rd and inches here, and a flag flies as Ricky Ray plunges. Likely the Stamp didn't give a full yard, but we'll wait and let Budstein confirm that. This very much like the Labor Day game.
Offside, Calgary defensive line, 5-yard penalty, first down.
So they don't give the yard, and it's a 5-yard penalty. 32-8, Calgary won convincingly Labor Day. The 2 games in Edmonton were memorable, 38-35, 35-34, down to the wire affairs, but not the same kind of drama here at McMahon this year between these 2 teams. More pressure, and a look in for Kamau Peterson.
Yeah, and you can sugarcoat it any way you want, but the bottom line is it really shows when you look at their 4 games this year that the Calgary Stampeders are a better football team right now than the Edmonton Eskimos, because when they go on the road, they keep it close, they win. They won on the road, but they also keep those games close. When they're at home, they're dominant.
2nd down, Ray hit again as he delivers, but the ball is incomplete. Thought Jason Barnes might have held it. Ricky Ray's taken some shots tonight.
Yeah, he has, and that was a concern for John Huffnagel. He was mentioning to me yesterday that, you know, he doesn't want to send too much blitz at Ricky Ray because he can burn you. He can see and recognize it quickly, but he felt if they could get pressure with 4, like Chris Schultz said before the game started, that they would be successful, and you know what? They have got pressure with just 4.
Jim Davis with the last shot at the quarterback. 3rd down and 5. And Ray looks to the end zone, and it's incomplete, intended for Barnes, broken up by John Eubanks. Turnover on downs.
Now it took half a season for John Hucknagel to find his starting halfbacks, but it looks like he's settled in nicely on John Eubanks and Keon Raymond. And another big play here by Eubanks to get over there, because that looked like it had touchdown written all over it. This is Ricky Ray's favorite throw. It's a newcomer in Jason Barnes, but Eubanks got his hand in there to knock it away.
So the Eskimos will remain last in the CFL West. Drew Tate comes in to finish up, the new number 2 in Calgary. He has passed Barrett Healy, and Demetrius Summers with a huge run up across the 40-yard line in relief of Joffrey Reynolds.
I tell you, the offensive line, too, for the Calgary Stampeders, I thought in the first half, Jeff Pilon had some struggles, a couple of challenges, a couple of procedure calls of holding, but the veteran bounced back big time in the second half. Demetrius Sumpas had a big game. I mean, he made some key blocks.
And it is time now for tonight's TSN Gladiator.
Demetrius Sumpas is an honorable mention. As I build it up on Sumpas as if that he played great, had some great blocks, but you just cannot deny the playmaker tonight, the assist man, the Wayne Gretzky of the Calgary Stampeders on this night in the Battle of Alberta, as Robbie Bryant has 9 catches for 210 yards and sets up 3 Calgary touchdowns.
Friday Night Gladiator brought to you by Movado. The Movado 800 series, all about the art of performance, where serious sports function meets powered design. And Robbie Bryant receives a Movado Series 800 watch as tonight's Friday Night Gladiator.
And I didn't mean to, just pull it out of the hands of Demetrius Sumpas, but as you know, Chris, that the Gladiator Award does not always go to the player with the best stats on the night or the skilled guy who gets the numbers and his name in the paper, because believe me, Robbie Bryant doesn't make those catches and Henry Burris doesn't make the throws if the offensive line don't make the blocks. And Sumpas, I thought, had a tremendous game tonight, and some key blocks on some running plays, especially down the goal line, that run to Joffrey Reynolds on that zone read play we showed you early on. He had the key block there, but Robbie Bryant set up the 3 touchdowns, and it was the big plays over the top. They were contested catches as well. They were tough coverage.
Randy Drew, the injured Eskimo on the play, has gone to the sidelines. Robbie Bryant didn't have a catch over 40 yards coming in. He had 3 of them tonight. And did a pretty good impersonation of Kenyon Rambo, didn't he?
He did.
Tate hands off John Cornish. Short gain, less than 2 minutes left. So Henry Burris with back-to-back solid outings.
You can see his focus is back. And, if he gets into a comfort zone with Robbie Bryant, which it clearly appears that he has, this is first 300-yard passing game for Henry Burris, I believe, since the Labor Day rematch.
You're right. 5th of the year, and 3 have been against Edmonton. So he's always dialed in against the rivals. 2nd and 10 as the fans serenade the neighbors to the north. Summers to the 45, and it will be 3rd down.
Boy, and for the Edmonton Eskimos, it is desperation time now.
Eskimos stop the clock. They've got Toronto next week at home, and then finish in BC. And Calgary is in Vancouver next Saturday, and then finishing in Regina against the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the game that could decide first place. But the BC Lions will have their say too. But now only 3 teams are left with a shot at first in the West. Dales just gets it away. Ooh. And Tristan Jackson's got it. And Jackson hit hard as the cover team smothers him.
Concerns in Edmonton. I mean, you can look at a few things. I mean, first of all, when these two teams meet, it has been a real shootout, but you can see the Calgary defense starting to figure out Ricky Ray in this offense a little bit, because the numbers decline heading into this one tonight every single meeting. They win in August, and Ray has a typical Ricky Ray evening with 3 touchdowns, 342 yards. But in the Labor Day back-to-back, those numbers dropped in each game. Now he's over 200, but has not thrown a touchdown pass in this game, and in fact, not really been close.
Stamps taken down quickly. Not much there with Shannon James making the tackle. 5 of Ricky Ray's first 8 starts, he had 300-yard games. And now 2 300-yard games in his last 8.
And is still trying to get on the same page as his offensive coordinator and Kevin Strasser, and that clearly is going to take some more time.
Now Peterson, a first down grab up to the 38. And Ray right about his average of the last 4 weeks. He had averaged 231 yards passing over the last 4 games. And he is at exactly 231 right now. Time to enhance that number tonight, but not much. 60. Well, the clock running down to a minute left. Dumps it off Whitlock.
But what this does, though, is it forces the Eskimos now to watch closely tomorrow to see what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do. They still have a chance. They've got to win out without question to give themselves an opportunity. You could say they've got an opportunity in Toronto next week, but then they play the BC Lions, who will be battling for home field no matter what happens tomorrow to them.
Ray to Peterson, and that ball popped loose. Is that a fumble or an incompletion? Calgary looks like they got on it. And it is Calgary football. Also a flag on the play. And Michael Binjo exchanging shots with one of the Eskimo linemen.
Kamal Peterson had turned and stepped up the field, so that looks like it would be ruled a fumble. That's the first look, and then Binjo involved behind the scenes.
Shannon James with the separator. Eskimos have not had a home playoff since 2004.
We're going to review that last play.
Well, they're going to review the play. They did not explain what the penalty's about.
Penalty was after the fact. I think Labinjo and the pushing back and forth. I'm not sure who they're going to call on it, but they're going to review whether or not that was a catch. More protocol than anything. It won't change the outcome of this game, but continue with the correct protocol. Take one more look at that. There's sort of the bang-bang terminology they say when the receiver has his hands on the ball. It first arrives. If that hit arrives at about the same time and the receiver does not maintain possession, then it's an incomplete pass. I don't think that was the case here.
The ruling on the field is that the pass was incomplete. However, we have an unnecessary roughness against Edmonton number 51 that will be applied at the point that the ball was last scrimmaged 15 yards back.
That's an interesting one, because it looked like to me Kamal Peterson turned and took a step with the ball. Now, they may have ruled that he didn't have control when he was hit, and it was close enough in the timing to be ruled incomplete, but again, doesn't change the outcome.
Aaron Fiacconi is the man called. He was locked up with Mike Labinjo, so that's what Labinjo was heated up about. I was going to say no home playoff game for Edmonton since 2004, and this loss will likely extend that for another year. Not mathematically eliminated from second, but
It's an uphill battle now, both ways.
Even 2 wins,
In the snow,
not likely going to get them there.
in bare feet.
They will be more concerned in Edmonton with, as you mentioned, securing a playoff spot in the crossover. And right now, Winnipeg and Hamilton can take that away from Edmonton. Screen to Whitlock, and that was snuffed out, incomplete, as Devon Claybrooks was in Whitlock's hip pocket.
You take a look, Calgary will improve to 9-6-1. The Saskatchewan Roughriders BC Lions play tomorrow afternoon. So one of those two teams wins, closes the gap. Edmonton now looks across. Winnipeg at 6-9. Hamilton just moved into second with their win. And remember, in the crossover, the team, let's say from the west crossing over to the east, cannot finish second, cannot finish higher than third. You cross over and you have to have a better record. You can't tie and then win on some sort of tiebreaker formula.
You don't see that big a smile usually from John Huffnagel. Turnover on downs, and now the Stamps will just run out the last half minute.
Well, the Battle of Alberta has been won soundly by the Calgary Stampeders this year. That improves them to 3-1.
132 to 87 in total points. 2 lopsided wins at home, and again 2 thrillers that they split at Commonwealth.
You know, and you never know. We thought that Fred Stamps and Jermaine Copeland could be the 2 go-to receivers. It turns out that this is the game for Robbie Bryant.
And we can look ahead. We've mentioned Winnipeg, Montreal. We can't wait to see a guy by the name of Printers against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But for tonight, John Huffnagel and his Stampeders have taken first place back in the West, pending that game tomorrow, as his team moves to 9-6-1 on the year. And suddenly Richie Hall's quest for a playoff spot in a very precarious position. 30-7 the final score here at McMahon for Henry Burris and the Stampeders. SportsCenter is next. So long from Calgary.